Good afternoon, Suidlanders. How are you? Is the camera rolling? Are we recording? Yes. This is Suidlanders Week in Review. But today's is going to be very brief. It has been a dull week, except for one or two things. A dull week indeed. Probably the most, titillating? If that's the right word, the most sensational event of the past week in the world was Kanye West being interviewed by Alex Jones. Kanye West, for those of you who don't know, is a rap artist with he mastered or he introduced a particular style that they call chipmunk soul sampling, if I've got that right. He's a very eccentric character. He was once locked up in the loony bin, put in a psychiatric hospital. And I watched an interview with somebody who said that when they took him away in a straitjacket. I don't know, I wasn't there. But apparently it was that category of looniness. He's an eccentric guy, but clearly a genius beyond a doubt. His achievements have been prodigious. He has made enormous sums of money. You can't believe the amounts of money that guys like he have made in the rap world. A lot more than $100 million or whatever. Far bigger figures than that. And recently, this guy, this eccentric, half crazy genius, has been speaking out about the Jews, and it is causing an absolute furor in the United States of America. I'm going to make a video on this because it's really quite entertaining. So for now, let it suffice to say that almost the highlight of the week in the world was this guy going on the Alex Jones show and talking about Hitler and how good Nazism is, and people don't give Nazism full credit, and Hitler full credit, and so on and so forth. And it's driving them berserk in the USA. This black rapper dude sticking up for Hitler. And this comes a few days after he and a white nationalist dude had dinner with Donald Trump. So there's a lot of uneasiness being felt at the moment. And just today we heard that Elon Musk, and I think it's relevant to say Elon Musk is Jewish, if you didn't know that. Elon Musk, it turns out, has his limits. And he has kicked Kanye West off of Twitter. The other big event of the week, of course, was the non-resignation of Cyril Ramaphosa. What happened? We know that in 2020, February, I believe, again, we're going to make a video about this. Cyril Ramaphosa's Pala Ranch near Bella Bella, Warmbad to some people still, was burgled. And but it was hushed up. In 2022, the head of the state security agency, so just in this year, our state security agency head, a guy by the name of Arthur Fraser, went to Rosebank police station, and he revealed all of the events, including CCTV camera footage, you name it, everything that had happened. That led to some parliamentary investigations. And an independent panel, that is to say a panel of retired judges, including former Chief Justice Sandile Ngcobo, adjudicated, they investigated and adjudicated, and it was the findings were released the day before yesterday, being Wednesday. That would have been the 30th of November, today being Friday the 2nd, as you know. Excuse me. That the president had done many wrong things. As the president, he contravened this, and there was a serious contravention of that. There were 4 or 5 serious contraventions by the president, including not declaring the money, not in these terms. They didn't say you didn't declare the money, but in as much as he had done these things that I'm about to mention to you, so had he contravened these 4 or 5 laws pertaining to proper presidential conduct and combating crime and the office and the this and disrepute and these types of laws. He didn't declare the money, didn't pay tax on the money, didn't inform anybody of the robbery, of the burglary, kidnapped the suspects once the presidential protection team tracked them down, because he didn't report it to the police. Presidential protection unit or team unit does what it does, clever guys, experts, Jackie Chan, doing their thing, tracked these guys down, kidnapped them and interrogated them, and presumably, under duress. I wouldn't like to stick my neck out and say that they tortured them, but I'm sure that those oaks didn't give up the information willingly. I'm sure their arms were twisted slightly behind their backs. Kidnapped them, interrogated them, and then paid them off 150,000 rand each. And the instigator of the whole event, a cleaner, maid, domestic worker, at Cyril Ramaphosa's house on his Pala Pala ranch near Bela Bela, which I would say is roughly, 100 kilometers north of Pretoria on the N1. She was fired, then rehired, then bribed with 150,000, not rand this time, $150,000. The long and the short of it is, this comes out the day before yesterday. Yesterday we have the president on the verge of resigning because he's on the back foot. He can't see a way out. He was going to address the country, presumably on SABC1 kind of thing, the national broadcaster, and he was going to resign allegedly in this sort of family meeting type address. And lo and behold, it turns out, it was postponed. He didn't appear on television last night. He didn't resign. And the ANC NEC, National Executive Committee meeting, that was meant to be held to discuss these matters last night, also didn't take place and was allegedly postponed until today. Although we haven't yet heard any outcome. Perhaps it didn't happen at all. But we have heard that the president has been persuaded by his allies that they are powerful enough to withstand this controversy, this drama, that they can prevail if he will just stay the course. So we hear, the latest that we're hearing is that he's going to stay the course, and that there is a very, very slender chance of him resigning yet, but it appears as if he's going to stick things out. Other than that, there's not much going on. The Russians are preparing for an enormous offensive in Ukraine. According to the experts, it looks as if it's going to take place in about 3 weeks from now. So give or take, plus or minus, roughly the 20th, 21st, 22nd, 23rd, something like that, of December 2022 in our calendar. And I mention that because the Russian calendar is somewhat different. The Eastern Orthodox calendar. Yes, and what else? Yeah, this made fairly big news. Ursula von der Leyen, the head of the EU Commission, said in a speech that was recorded, standing behind a lectern on top of a podium. It's all very formal, not some casual interview or tete-a-tete across a dinner table at some banquet. No, formal speech. She says 100,000 Ukrainian officers have so far died in the war. thinking, apparently, that that would be powerful rhetoric for the Ukraine cause. 100,000 officers have already died. Isn't it just too bad what those wicked Russians are doing? But it rebounded on her because hitherto the European Union, the Americans, and particularly the Ukrainians have downplayed the Ukraine losses in the war. And all of the conservatives jumped on that admission. Conservatives everywhere you look, from every nook and cranny, came out and said, "We told you so." Finally, they're telling the truth. They're admitting it. Notwithstanding the fact that she used the wrong term in saying officers. She should have said soldiers or men or something like that, or whatever. And so the implication being, you see, we told you, they've been lying all along. The next thing you know, the European Union takes down that speech, wherever it was posted, I suppose on Twitter, Facebook, wherever, its own website, and so on, takes down that speech, edits it, cuts out that part, puts the speech back up, and then she says, "Oh no, it was a third-party source that said that, and it was just an estimate." Now, of course, it was always a third-party source. Nobody believed for 1 minute that she'd personally gone to the battlefield to count. Anyway, so then they said those figures were absolutely wrong. Third-party people can't be trusted, useless. Don't know why we ever listened to them. In fact, the figure is 10,000, which is patent nonsense, because it means that over the roughly 10 months, I'm oversimplifying, but over the roughly 10 months of this war so far, going on for 10 months, it means that only 1,000 people a month, Ukrainian soldiers, have died, which is 250 a week, and that is patently absurd. So, since then, they've come up with a new figure, 16,000. 16,000, that's the number. And I don't know what that is. 16, what about 1,500 a month, maybe a little bit more. Call it, let's say, 400 a week, for the sake of a number. Obviously, months have more than 4 weeks in them. They have 4 weeks and 2 days, or 4 weeks and 3 days, unless it's a 28-day February. It's just nonsense. Absolute rubbish. The number is almost certainly at least 100,000. All of the boffins, all of the experts are singing the same tune. Anyway, that's that. The only other thing really worth talking about is... I forgot to mention, about 40% of Ukraine's power grid is knocked out, and it is being continually knocked out. The Russians are stepping up, or they are sustaining, I should say, the attacks that they've been launching upon the key nodes of the Ukraine power grid. Every time they repair a substation or a giant transformer, the Russians knock it out again 2 weeks later. And it looks as if Ukraine civilians are going to suffer terribly this year from the cold, with a severe shortage of electricity, but that there's going to be a similar problem, not the same, but similar, right across Europe. North Korea, as you know, we discussed this last week, has done ballistic missile tests that of missiles that would be able to fly all the way from the Far East. For those of you who don't know, if you've got a rough visual idea of the world, you know where Asia lies, you know that India sort of pokes down into the Indian Ocean, kind of in the middle there, and then you've got those other countries, Bangladesh and Laos and Cambodia and Vietnam, and it goes up along the coast, and then there's China. Well, right at the end, stuck half, between Russia, the northernmost part of Asia, Far East, and China is North Korea. Very far north, very cold. From there, all the way, these missiles can go all the way across the Pacific Ocean, right across the west coast of the USA, across the heartland of the USA, even as far as the east coast. So you can just imagine the hysteria that is coming out of the United States of America. I mean, for years, the United States of America has been hysterical, and I use that word advisedly, about North Korea as if they're going to wipe them out, the entire USA, the day after tomorrow. China is not even comparable. It's an infinitesimal threat by comparison with North Korea. Little old North Korea, the hermit kingdom, everybody half starving to death, no economy, dog poor, nothing going on there. Those are the ones we should be worried about. Now you can imagine that for the first time, when, for the first time ever, there is some half credible threat. And it is only half credible because it was a test firing of a missile for which there is no evidence whatsoever that they have nuclear warheads or many of the missiles. Over and above that, they will never have many of the missiles because they don't have the economy to build these things on, 10 of them a day or whatever, to conduct a serious war. Yeah, there is some threat, but it's not an existential threat to the United States of America. It simply is not, and simply never will be. But by American standards, after all the wailing and gnashing of teeth in previous years, when there was nil threat, now that there's this teeny tiny little threat, one ballistic missile that can do this, one, absolute hysteria reigns supreme, like the King of England 400 years ago, over this North Korean threat to the very existence of the United States of America. Anyway, guys, we're going to end on that note. Perhaps this evening, I'm in the mood for it. Let's see how it goes. Or over the weekend, I will certainly do at least one of, if not both of, the videos on the Pala scandal and the Kanye West thing. Because the Kanye West thing is very, very, very interesting in sociological terms, pertaining to the political and social climate in the United States of America in the year 2022. It's a huge matter. And the more that Suidlanders know about these meaningful political affairs in the world, not the rubbish that they feature on SABC and, Mnet or wherever, the better. The more that Suidlanders know these 1, 2, 3, 4, 10 very important things, the better. We need to be the ones who know and understand what is really going on in the world. Anyway, thank you for watching. Please like, share, and subscribe. If you'd like to support us, visit Suidlanders.org. Suidlanders.org. Enter and scroll to the bottom of the page. There are a number of places there, a number of vectors, a number of means through which you can donate. We need the support, and we appreciate it very much. Thank you. God bless you, and may you have a wonderful weekend. Cheerio, everybody.